Hey, friends, welcome to The Motive, a reason for doing something, especially one that is not obvious, where we talk about mortgage, life, business, and try to mix in a little humor occasionally. Today, we're talking mortgage, we're talking business, we're talking something that we've probably talked about before, but it's worth bringing up again. It's worth talking about again. Will, what are we talking about today?
I mean, we've gone over this a few times, but I think it's that important. We should reinforce it, talk about it. It's like, what are you waiting for as far as the market with your mortgage, in relation to buying, also relating to, people they have too much debt right now. They're overextended on their debt. Why not do a cash out loan, take all that equity out of your home? So there's two scenarios, but let's just start with purchasing. Why are people waiting, and why shouldn't they not?
Well, I think that the number one for everything is people think that the rates are going to come down or the houses or market's going to crash, right? I mean, I think that's what I see mostly. That people are waiting that think the housing market's going to crash or they're waiting for the rates to come down. And I don't blame most people for that because it might be an affordability issue, right? But if it's not an affordability issue and it's just, a prideful thought or something that you just think is going to happen without anything to back it, then that's a stupid decision.
Right.
Because I've seen a lot of people make stupid decisions. And we were talking about this earlier, but even, I don't care if the rates are 10% or if they're 2%, even in the 2 to 3% market, we have people who say they're waiting for them to get to the ones. So, and those are people that won't do anything and they'll end up making bad decisions probably, or maybe not a bad decision, just not an improved decision
Right.
in what they're trying to do. But yeah, I think for people buying a house right now, it is hard with the rates because the housing market hasn't slowed down. Homes are still closing relatively quickly, at least nationwide. They're still closing at or above asking price nationwide. And I'm saying, like, I know there's some areas that have taken dips and taken a little heat, but the majority, right, of what we're talking about. And yeah, I mean, like I said, right, I think right now you can say it's because of the rates, you're waiting for it to come down, but really it's probably you're afraid
Right.
of a payment. And, you're talking about people buying houses these days, especially in our neck of the woods here in Southern California, where they're going to have a 6, 7, $8,000 mortgage payment, maybe. And it might take two families to get involved. That's a big pill to swallow.
Right.
That can create a lot of fear in making that decision, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look what's happened the last 2 years. People have been waiting, and what has changed? Prices of homes gone up. Rates have gone down a quarter maybe in the last year, but they haven't changed really.
Yeah.
So you're just paying more for the house that you were waiting for 2 years ago. So, I mean, we're just still sitting in the same situation pretty much.
Yeah, I think people wanting to buy a house. We talked about this, we brought it up multiple times. It's sometimes like they're stubborn. I don't want to buy in a different location. I want to stay in this city, right? I want to buy in Beverly Hills when I can't afford to buy in
San Bernardino money.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, if you look at the percentages, if you break it down just like an analytical approach of what have you lost, like maybe reverse engineer your way you're thinking, right? You're thinking, what am I waiting for? But what have you lost? What are you going to continue to lose, right? So if I would have bought that home, a year ago, 2 years ago, that's gone up. How much have I actually lost?
Right.
Everything, paying the rent I'm paying or paying the mortgage I'm paying now, or if it's an investment, not collecting that rent, or the amount of equity that's gone up, or the pay down I would have paid down on it. I mean, there's multiple returns on an investment when it comes to real estate, and waiting ends up costing 99% of the time is going to cost you something.
Right.
What is it costing you? So I think that's a self-reflection. It's something that you really got to stop just saying or making up the excuses of what you hear on the news or what your friends and family tell you, and find out what is it really costing you or not costing you, right? Rents have gone up. They're crazy. I can't even believe how much rents are right now.
Right.
But mortgages are usually higher right now, and they're going to have a payout longer term than they are. Obviously, the rents is going to 5 years from now, you'll be doing the same thing. Actually, you'll be doing worse because rents will increase as well, right?
Right.
So those are things I think that hold people back. But again, it's lack of education, it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of actually taking the time, focusing and writing down the reasons for it, of why you're doing something or why you're not doing something. And
It's all combined with
getting over fear.
that initial fear,
Yeah.
to make that commitment.
Right.
So yeah, it is a big one, right? You're putting money down. You're going to carry on this big payment. You might have to share the payment with multiple people, whatever the case. It is scary, yeah. So, but I mean, nothing's changed the last 2 years. So like, what are people waiting for? I mean, we're going to wait for the 2% rates at 5 years from now? Are you going to wait for 3% rates 10 years from now? Like, what? I mean, how
It
long are
doesn't
you gonna
matter
wait?
what the market's doing. There's always people. There's always a percentage. It's always broken down into metrics that we talk about of how many people, no matter what the market's doing, there's people that are not going to do something. Just like if you host an event, if you host a party and 100 people RSVP, you probably assume 40 people show up and take it from there, right? And the same thing, no matter how good the rates are, how bad the rates are, whatever the reason is, there's a metric of people that are going to consistently make an excuse. You can be giving homes away for free and there'll be a reason that they won't do it.
I don't want to take care of the lawn. I don't want to.
There's certain things. So that's going to hold people back. So
Yeah.
if you want to be in that majority number, then keep letting the fear make your decisions, hold you back from doing it. But one of the favorite things I love to see, and I hear this from people and I'm starting to relate to it, is, you ever hear that old timer that talks about how they couldn't afford the house they bought 40 years ago or 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And they say, I don't know how I could afford it. I was making $2 a day and I had a mortgage that was $30 a month, however far back you want to go. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I had to, beg, borrow, and steal to make it happen. And now they're sitting in a $1.5 million free and clear house, right?
Right.
It's like that kind of thing. Like those are people that take initiative and make things happen, and they know that they have to overcome that fear. It's scary. It's scary with the payments these days,
Right.
especially if you're not thinking like the young kids who think like everybody magically makes $20,000 a month or something, but watching too much YouTube and Instagrams. But yeah, you talk to those people that have actually had those stories that can tell you of how they overcame their fears and how it has benefited them
Right.
down the road,
Yeah.
but not at that time.
Exactly.
And if you're worried about right now, then fear is going to create that,
Right.
intensify that.
They had that fear back then, but they broke through it and made a decision, and it worked out for them. So
Absolutely.
that's a good way to look at it or think about it. So yeah, I mean, people are still waiting. It's a crazy thing. Let's flip it. That's purchase side. I mean, people that have mortgages have equity. Obviously, we've seen the house values go up like 20, 30, 40% the last 5 years or whatever it is. So people have a lot of cash sitting in their homes, but they're running up bills because obviously grocery store, everything's expensive to go buy, right? Everything to Q-tips. So people have debt. So why are not people taking out a higher mortgage or a second lien or what to pay off these debts?
Same thing. They're afraid. They think something's going to happen. But yeah, people have a lot more equity. People have a lot more debt right now too, right? A year ago, people, it didn't make sense to refinance your home if you were in trouble. Most people weren't in trouble. Let's put it that way. Even if you felt you're in trouble, we had all that free money that was pumped into the economy,
right?
And people were living on savings and whatever the reason is. Now that's been running out. We've known this. We've been watching it. We've been projecting that it's going to be around late 2024. People start running out of that money, and we're already seeing, refinances are up 30% from last year, right? Year over year. So, and that's just because people, are understanding that they need money. The price of money isn't anything compared to needing money to survive, right?
Right.
Like, so again, and yeah, I know your question was refinances and lines of credit. Why don't people want to do that? I think more and more people are realizing of course, nobody wants to do it when you have a 2.5% or 3% mortgage rate on, a couple $100,000. And I don't want anybody to get rid of that if they don't have to.
Right.
But if you've got yourself in a situation where you're paying 20, 25, 30% interest rates on credit cards, on debts that will never go away, then you need to do something now. Because here's what happens if you don't do something now. You become like half of the clients that actually come and talk to us that we have to kind of backtrack and refigure a different plan out. They've already got into the position where they started missing payments and they started not being able to afford that mortgage payment or car payment. And now you're going to be at the risk of even qualifying for a loan, period. You might not even have an option to do that.
Yeah.
And you might be sitting there leaving tons of equity out on the table that you can't touch or can't use. I talked to somebody yesterday, 2 commercial buildings free and clear, probably made $200,000 of equity in 2 year or year and a half. But because he had missed a mortgage payment 4 months ago, it's kind of bumped
He's
him out
stuck.
from qualifying. And the banks won't even give him money on the commercial buildings that are free and clear right now. And I know he can find it at certain terms and stuff like that, I'm sure, but
Right.
it's really limiting what you can do.
Right.
So I think people are afraid to make the decision. They're afraid of losing something. Hey, if you got to, like when we talk to people, if you got a good rate and you can do a second mortgage, a home equity loan, or a home equity line of credit, or something else that fits you better, by all means do it. You could always combine them later. You could pay it off quicker, right? You don't need to do it. If you have to really look at the options. You have to look at the blended rates and how much debt. I mean, if you're talking, I got a $400,000 mortgage at 2.8, I only need 40 grand.
Doesn't make sense.
That's not going to make sense.
Right.
But if I got 150 grand on, I got a $200,000 mortgage and 150 grand of other debt, even that 2.5, combining that into even the rates in today's market
5 or 6.
might be a lot better. Might, right?
Right.
You need to look at it. You need to have somebody go over it with you and really, really, really lay it out for you so you know what is best.
But I think just you said refinance is up, of late, just because I think people are running out of an option. They're getting to that point. The credit card's maxed out. Your credit cards are not going to extend you any more lines of credit. We're reaching that point where you have to go get that equity out of your house and pay these things off, because we're reaching a point where people just don't have enough money or income to pay these things, or savings to pay these things. So,
Right.
yeah.
And that's I mean, it can be a good debt. You could turn a bad debt into a good debt if it's, say it's an investment home or something that you're debt servicing, or you're just taking like some credit card debts and stuff like that. We know those are horrible. Student loans that didn't get forgiven. Sometimes right now, even car loans, right? I mean, the car loans are, I've seen people getting quotes above 10% for those
Yeah.
even these days. You have something, you don't, if you have the equity and you don't need it, don't use it. Sit tight, ride this market out. In fact, the only time you're going to leverage that equity is if you need to reinvest it into something else. Maybe you're going to buy another house. Maybe you need to add additions to your house or fix it up. Maybe because the cost of living is so expensive that you do add another unit or an ADU, or have another family come in that help debt service yourself and actually help somebody else out.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways you can go right now, but don't be afraid, or don't let fear of a bad situation make it worse. That's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, like you said, the customer that waited too long, we see that all the time. They wait 2-3 months too long. They're in debt consolidation at this point. They've missed 3 credit card payments, 1 car payment, possibly a mortgage payment. Now you can't even get a loan. Now you can't even access that equity.
Dude, yeah, it's common. Like I said, it's the most common thing, I think, right now. And I think it's going to get worse right now. And again, people procrastinating and not taking care of the problem ahead of time is the lead to that.
But my mortgage is 2.65 though.
That's great.
I'm going into bankruptcy.
2.65 doesn't mean anything if you lose the house,
Okay,
right?
so-
Yeah. And hopefully that never happens. And don't want it to happen.
My view is like people should say, okay, I had a 2.5 for 3 years. Like that was great. I paid down my mortgage. I did this. I helped paid down a lot of equity. I had a great run for 3 years. Like take advantage of that. I wouldn't take it as like I was supposed to have a 30-year run at this. Like
You're right.
I would start thinking that way. Like,
I think too, part of it, Will, is like it's a FOMO thing. It's like we're all people, we're all a bunch of sheep, and we just follow what we see and are told, right? Like how many people call you and say, I don't want an FHA loan. I only want conventional. Why? Well, because somebody told me those are for bad qualified people or something like that. It's like FOMO, fear of missing out on losing that rate.
right. Have you ever been to parties where everybody's sitting around drinking tea and like, what rate do you have?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I yeah, that's a mental thing, I think. Yeah, that people can't break through. So
Yeah, they're like, I'm not going to refinance. I don't want to have a 6% rate when everybody else, all my friends got 2.5.
Yeah.
What are they going to look down on me?
Yeah.
No, they're going to open the doors to you if you don't do something, because you'll be homeless.
No, I think I think it's a great thing that we went over. Yeah, I compare it to like, okay, what about this? You're waiting too long. You know how kids, you want to go on vacation when summer school starts or summer's out, this and that. The parents want it, but gas is always higher in the summer. What if mom said, no, gas is too high right now. We're going to wait till gas prices go down. But then summer's over.
My mom did say that. No, exactly. Right. Like you're
waiting
about
to wait for it. Like it's going to be over. Like life's going to be over. You're going to be 80 and you're like, I'll wait till I'm a first time home buyer.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
wait till. Yeah. So
Yeah. Everybody's different. Like I said, I think, whatever, if there's a problem, focus on how to resolve it now, because we always, we know you could always restructure debt and change that and refinance and sell. Nothing's forever, but don't get yourself in a position that's going to take 5 to 7 to 10 years to try to get yourself out.
Too much putting off and sweeping under the rug is going to put you in a real bad position here. So.
Right. So
Okay.
So fix the debt.
Fix your debt.
Fix the debt. Hey, guess what? Like I said, they're up 30%. Everybody's doing it. So be like your friends, be like your neighbors, and fix your problem if you have one right now.
All right. Well, I'm glad we covered that again because I think it's really important. So
yes,
especially for right now.
It's extra important because, especially going in the second half of 2024 and into 2025.